Against two men accused of sexually abusing their children will be heard by a jury. In a stunning turn of events, the defense withdrew a plea deal that would have kept two Glastonbury fathers out of jail. Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Matthew Campbell just got out of court and is live now with the new information. Matthew?
Well, Denise, this is literally a case that's pitting brother against brother. On one hand, you have one son who's describing in detail some of the graphic, alleged sexual abuse that happened at the hands of his two fathers. While on the other hand, his own blood brother is saying none of that is true. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at video just shot moments ago. The two men at the center of it all are George Harasz and Douglas Wirth. Here they are leaving the courthouse together moments ago. They had no comment for us, and they adopted 9 children in all. Some of them are accusing the couple of doing the unthinkable. We're talking about rapes, locking children in cages, and many more things just too graphic for TV. Now, the couple faced a slew of sexual assault charges, but once this went to court, the state had trouble proving some of the allegations actually went down. Now, couple that with testimony from other children who say none of this happened at all, and Harasz and Wirth were able to strike a plea deal. It was one that would have kept the couple out of jail, and going into court today, it was one that both sides agreed upon. But today, in a surprising twist, the defense says that plea deal is just not good enough. They want to clear their clients' names completely, and the state is happy for this outcome as well because they're looking to prosecute these guys. And we caught up with the grandfather of 2 of the alleged victims. This is what he had to say.
Just listening to what, what's been done and what's been said, it's really heart-wrenching.
So again, both men are free tonight. The pretrial hearing is scheduled for June 5th. That is the latest. Live with the mobile newsroom here in Hartford, Matthew Campbell, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
As the Federal Health and Human Services adopted Alfred Kinsey's idea, we'll talk about it today on Faith and Freedom. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, Dr. Judith Reisman is an internationally known expert on Alfred Kinsey and the effects that he has had on sexuality and the deterioration of morality, beginning here in the United States and going across the country. But she recently spoke to some people that was actually broadcast or taped by C-SPAN, and it'll be coming on C-SPAN later on. But she spoke in your class, and she brought up some information about the Federal Health and Human Services and how they're actually apparently adopting Alfred Kinsey's idea that children are sexual beings from birth. This is shocking, and it's actually part of what's on the HHS website.
Yeah, it's quite frightening, really. Alfred Kinsey, of course, was a notorious homosexual sadomasochist who, during the Kinsey reports, the Sexuality in the Human Male, Sexuality in the Human Female, published in the late 1940s, early 1950s, as part of his so-called research, he facilitated the sexual molestation of hundreds, if not thousands, of children, instructing pedophiles, to use stopwatches and ledgers to keep track of these molestations, child rapes we're talking about here. And he said he concluded from that children are quote, sexual from birth. Well, the liberal sexual sex education model is deeply rooted in all of Kinsey's research that basically says sexuality is values neutral and that children are sexual from birth. And in fact, the Health and Human Services on their website, in a questions and answers about sex website, said, quote, children are human beings and therefore sexual beings, which is healthy and normal. Well, that is directly in line with what this child abuser Alfred Kinsey believed, and so we shouldn't be surprised that with this comprehensive sex education, even our own Health and Human Services is pushing that ridiculous idea.
Yeah, Alfred Kinsey, you can go back to his Sexuality in the Human Male in 1948, and then Sexuality in the Human Female in 1953, and in the first book, in Table 34, he actually lists a number of different people, and he lists these molestations. So it's very obvious from his own book what he was doing, as you were saying. But in that chart alone, if you think what we're saying is shocking, just look at that. You can Google it on the Google. You can do Kinsey's Table 34. You'll find it. It'll come up, and you can find the table, and it's a chart. And in that table, he lists toddlers, little toddlers, who was part of these so-called scientific experiments where he actually, in some cases, paid pedophiles to molest these children and others as well, rapists to rape women. And that's part of his research. And his whole idea was to, I believe, destroy the very concept that there is God. And to do that was, the way he would do it is to break down the concept of marriage and morality. When you destroy marriage and morality, you ultimately destroyed the very image or understanding of God. And so he wanted to bring this idea that children were sexual human beings from birth, and any kind of suppression, any kind of morals, any kind of mores that you would place in human sexuality were harmful, not helpful.
Everything you're saying, it's not a matter of belief or opinion. It's documented. Kinsey was quoted as saying that he intended to destroy the Judeo-Christian view of human sexuality. That was his primary goal. This wasn't scientific. This was socio-political. This was a cultural attempt to change the face of the culture. And in order to do that, as you point out, the Table 34 is the smoking gun. I mean, it's in the very book. It talks. We can't even describe what he says in there. It's so vile. But he even said that adult-child sex is beneficial, and so the FBI has put together what it calls a paradigm, a child molester paradigm, and they point out that basically what they don't make this assertion, but it's easy to draw the connection here that today's comprehensive sex education, as being pushed by the Health and Human Services Department, is essentially grooming children for pedophiles for sex. Listen to what the FBI says. Pedophiles will demonstrate sex acts to children. Offenders commonly use pornography to teach or give instructions to naive children about how to masturbate, perform oral sex, and or engage in sexual intercourse. This is the FBI. This is what comprehensive sex education does today. They use explicit language, graphic images.
And then you move from that. And this is an article that you actually penned for WorldNet Daily called Obama's HHS Grooming Children for Sex. It's an article that you wrote a little while ago. We can make it available as well. You can go to libertycouncil.com, our website, as well as lc.org.
It's up there now,
And it's at libertycouncil.com right now. So you can go there. That's one of our new websites, by the way, and it has a lot of information. A lot of the material that we're talking about in these programs will be posted there. So this article is there. You can read it for yourself. Once you then lay out the FBI child molesters, sort of how child molesters groom children, then you move into the HHS. Yeah. So you say, oh, this is how they actually groom children. And then you look at, well, that's what the HHS recommends. I mean, on the website, they've got the quick guide to healthy living. This is on the Department of Health and Human Services, where Kathleen Sebelius is the secretary appointed by the president. And it's got questions and answers about sex. And that's where it talks about children are human beings and therefore sexual beings. Children.
Yeah.
Children are sexual beings.
Yeah, that's pure Kinsey, and that's
Kinsey.
Alfred Kinsey. It's completely...
And then it says, which is healthy and normal.
Yeah.
And then some of the other things we can't even probably say here on the air, but it's right there.
Find us.
Just go right there to libertycouncil.com. You'll see the WorldNet Daily article that Matt Barber wrote, and it has all of this information documented. You can go read it for yourself. What is shocking is Kinsey, and a lot of people don't know about Kinsey. One of the people with the recording company that was there said something to the effect that he felt like he had been hit in the gut, that he did not know this information and would have to think about these things in a different way. And, Judith Reisman is an expert on this. Yeah. Her book, Sexual Sabotage, is a book that we have that we encourage people to get. But this information is shocking to most people, but it's out there. And what's even more shocking is that our federal government is promoting it.
Well, that's right. And this was the C-SPAN crew that came to my class and filmed the class. I had two of them come up afterward. A young woman who said that she could not believe that that blew her away, everything that she had heard. She didn't know any of this. And the gentleman that was there, I talked with him, he was the father of two young girls. And he said that I feel like I've just been kicked in the stomach. He said, I'm going to have to change my whole way of thinking about all of this. When the information gets out there and people see what like the Health and Human Services pushing comprehensive sex education, that they are, whether it's intentional or not, they don't even realize they are grooming children by desensitizing children to sex for adult predators, even saying that children are sexual beings. This values neutral, comprehensive sex education. It's dangerous. And look at the results that it has yielded over the years. Explosive teen pregnancy, children as young as 12, 13 years old getting sexually transmitted diseases. That's because of this Keynesian sex education. He accomplished his job. He managed to fairly well wipe out the Judeo-Christian view of sexuality, the pre-Kinsey view. Now we're in the post-Kinsey era, and it's not pretty.
And our federal government, with our elected leaders, are using your tax dollars to fund this kind of filth. It's up on the HHS website today. It's there. You can see it for yourself. And these federal tax dollars with these elected officials are being used to fund this kind of filth and debauchery within the public schools around the country under this guise of sex education, comprehensive sex education. You know, elections do matter, and that's why I think it's important to vote biblical values of life, that the sanctity of human life is protected from the moment of conception, marriage as the union of one man and one woman, and families, strong families. This kind of thing tears down families. We need to not reconstruct and deconstruct families. We need to strengthen them. We need not to redefine marriage as between two people of the same sex, but to strengthen the family itself. Because as the family is strong, the rest of our communities are strong.
A landmark Oprah show event.
Your husbands, sons, brothers. How many of you were abused by more than one? 200 men courageously stand together to say they were all molested.
I cry every day inside knowing what could have been.
With special guest Tyler Perry.
The show that opened the floodgates for millions of men.
Next.
There are 200 men standing in our studio audience right now. Each one is holding a picture of themselves at the age when they say they were first sexually abused. These courageous men are standing together to lift the veil of shame today, because what happened to them as young boys has profoundly affected who they have become as men.
I'm a husband.
I'm a son.
I'm a boyfriend.
I'm a grandfather of 7.
I work for child welfare.
I work for the federal government.
The sexual abuse started when I was 4.
sexually assaulted at 16.
I was raped at the age of 14.
I was 6.
I was 12.
I was 7. I was sexually abused my entire childhood until I was 18.
The topic is taboo, surrounded by stigma and shame. It's a silent and devastating epidemic with numbers that are really staggering. It's estimated that 1 in every 6 men has been molested as a child. 1 out of 6.
I was molested by a member of my extended family.
I was molested by a family member.
By my landlord.
By several priests.
It was a neighbor.
It was a doctor.
It was my scoutmaster.
It was an award-winning teacher.
I was molested by my father.
Statistics show that 90% of child molesters target children they know. And the horrific side effects of childhood sexual abuse can last a lifetime.
Those men are at greater risk for many emotional problems, including depression, anxiety, problems in relationships with intimacy, problems with sexual dysfunction, problems with sexual orientation confusion, and 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 increased risk for suicide as well. The shame that they feel is immense, and it really totally blocks their ability to talk about it, and they wind up keeping it a secret.
My dad did stuff to me when I was 8. And, I thought he must be right. I must have wanted it. And then I grew up. And I thought every kid wanted it. Getting caught was the best thing that ever happened to me.